Today we have LulaLend CEO Trevor Gosling. He'll be sharing his entrepreneurial journey with us today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. You're an entrepreneur, right? And you founded 5 Ounces 5 years ago.
That's right, yes.
And you sold it to Naspers. But the interesting thing is that you remained the CEO for a year. What was that experience like?
Well, the whole journey was amazing. Before even becoming an entrepreneur, I've been more an investment banker for 5 years prior to that.
Okay.
So when I'd seen my brother and his business partner founded what became a Groupon South Africa, and I saw how successful they were,
Wow.
I thought it was a good time to get out of banking and get into starting on my own business. So that was 5 Ounces, where we focused on selling fine wines, gourmet foods, craft beers,
Yes.
accessories, all that sort of thing. And yeah, within 2 years, we were one of the fastest growing e-commerce companies in South Africa. And Naspers were interested in us, and they took over the company. And I spent another year in the Naspers group.
Yes.
as the company was integrated. Yeah.
A business is like a baby. Starting that and then having to sell it, how was the experience like?
It's always a bit tough because you feel you have worked hard to build up this brand, and but that was my ultimate goal with 5 Ounces. I wanted to build up a company that could be taken over by a larger corporate that could continue pushing it.
Okay.
So I understood where I was going initially in my journey. So the fact that Naspers showed interest and bought it out was actually a really positive thing for me. And as tough as it was to let go of the brand and what I'd built up and the hard work I'd put in, it was great to see it being recognized by a big company like Naspers.
Yes, but ultimately it wasn't that painful because that was the end goal in the beginning.
Exactly.
When you started. All right. And then you went on to launch LulaLend with your co-founder, Neil Wellman.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So towards the end of my time with Naspers, I realized I wanted to get back into financial services because that's where I'd spent my investment banking days.
Yes.
So I wanted to get back into financial services, and I wanted to use the digital knowledge that I'd learned while running an e-commerce company. I knew I needed a quality CTO on board, someone who could develop the platform and all the ideas.
Yes.
And that's where Neil Wellman, my business partner, came in. He's amazing on the tech side, and that's what he handles. And then I bring the more commercial and business side to things. So from the outset, what we wanted to do was solve a huge problem in South Africa, which is the access to funding for small businesses.
Yes.
So the bigger banks and stuff, they're not really interested in your smaller companies. They prefer it's easier and less risky to fund the bigger corporates, and that's their focus, and that's the business that the big banks have built. So we really saw a big market potential for small businesses that needed access to funding. And not only that, we wanted to make sure that they could get that access to funding as quickly as possible. And that's
Yes.
where the technology to LulaLend comes in. So we started in July 2014 and successfully launched our platform in May 2015.
All right.
And from there on, we've gone on to fund hundreds of businesses.
That's amazing. I mean, speaking of funding, as you've mentioned, many small businesses, they struggle with that. They always say funding. They have all these brilliant ideas which have a potential to create more jobs and then help the economy, as we know the situation currently in the country. But funding is always a big hurdle for them. So tell us about your experience. How did you fund your startup?
Yeah, so I mean, ironically, that was one of our biggest hurdles, and to this day, it is still a difficult hurdle is accessing funding. Initially, we spoke to local investors, and we got a venture capital company on board locally. But for our seed investment into the business, it largely came from investors in Europe, as they had worked on similar models in the world, and they knew the potential for LulaLend to work in South Africa. So they were actually the first investors into our business. And then as our business grew, there was potential to raise another round of funding.
Yes.
And at this point, we also spoke to some local guys, but no one was really too keen.
Yeah.
But we did come across 2 US venture capital companies who were very interested in the space and had seen the progress we had made, and they were very keen to get on board. So that was towards the back end of last year, we raised that funding round. And that's given us the ability to continue to scale the business and obviously provide more funding to to small businesses.
So you're saying that they were not keen. Was it because I know your business is mostly online? Were they afraid of the risks that were associated with the business? What was the real issue that made them not so keen to fund you?
I think that's it. The fact that we are an online company, that that we're operating in a space that there isn't a huge amount of track record.
Okay.
The coin term is fintech, financial technology, and in South Africa we might be a bit behind the curve versus other developed markets. So your bigger traditional institutional funders are a bit scared to back this kind of company in its infancy.
Yes.
So we know this will change in time as we show our track record, and as we move forward, more and more interest will be shown locally, we believe.